Knock on the Saints door. Quarterback sneak by Tom Brady to the 43-year-old score. He did. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Now spiked that ball, Tom Brady. Who says I'm 43? He runs right up the gut and scores 6. 7. Handoff, run the ball. Fournette slashes away to the 40, to the 35, to the 30, to the 30, 25, to the 20. Fournette to the 10, 5, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Run the ball, Leonard Fournette. Wow, what a blast up the gut, found daylight, and outran everybody. Fire the cannons, get them going. Bucs win. Bucs win, Bucs win. Fire them cannons.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Sorts Up Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about our Week 7 game away against the Las Vegas Raiders, and this game was originally supposed to be scheduled for Sunday Night Football, but due to COVID concerns, which I'll get to later in the video, this game has been rescheduled to 4:05 p.m. Eastern, and the Seahawks and Cardinals game, which was supposed to be at this time, has been moved to Sunday Night Football. But today I'm going to be talking about the key stats and players from the game, as well as giving a prediction like I always do. But first, getting into some pretty insane and crazy news regarding the Buccaneers, and that's going to be the signing of Antonio Brown. So I'm going to go pretty in-depth into this, and since I really don't have time to make another video with this, I'm just combining it into this week's prediction video. So if you'd like to skip ahead to the preview, I'm going to be leaving a timestamp in the description below. But without further ado, let's just get straight into the Antonio Brown situation. Alright, so the pretty big breaking news of the week regarding the NFL has been the signing of free agent wide receiver Antonio Brown by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Antonio Brown visited the team today, and they agreed to terms on a contract about yesterday, kind of in the evening time. And so the deal is supposed to be a little above the league minimum, which is $1 million, so it's around that area, with extra incentives built into his contract based on performance. So what this tells you is that this deal is going to be a pretty low-risk deal, since he has been known to have discipline and behavioral issues in the past, which I'll get into in a bit. But yeah, I just want to go through like the crazy little timeline and his stats and everything like that, and just showing you how he ended up on the Buccaneers. So his last actual full season in the league came in 2018. Of course, that was on the Steelers, in which he caught 104 passes for 1,297 yards and 15 touchdowns, which is the most of his career in any season. His best season overall was in 2015, in which he caught 136 passes for 1,834 yards and 10 touchdowns. And Antonio Brown has had over 1,000 yards receiving in 7 seasons he's played in the league, and he's also a 7-time Pro Bowler. So obviously he's a really accomplished receiver. Honestly, you could argue that he's been the best receiver of the 2010s decade, probably alongside like Julio Jones. So yeah, obviously the pedigree we're getting from signing Antonio Brown is going to be huge. But now let's take a look at the timeline which led to this weird series of events from him leaving the Steelers all the way to signing with the Buccaneers. Alright, so December 23rd, 2018 was Antonio Brown's last game with the Steelers, and this game in a Week 16 matchup against the Saints, and the Steelers were really looking for a playoff spot. They did not end up making the playoffs that year, mainly in part to them losing this game, but Antonio Brown had an excellent game, had 14 catches for 185 yards and 2 touchdowns, and it was really insane to think that after this, everything would just fall apart for him. Just a week later, December 30th, 2018, a Week 17 game against the Cincinnati Bengals, Antonio Brown was benched, and there are some stories regarding why he got benched, but no one really knows. Some of the stories are that he threw a football at Ben Roethlisberger, or he was just upset about Juju Smith-Schuster being named the team MVP that season. But yeah, his relationship at this point became broken to the point of no return with the Steelers. And just an interesting note, on January 15, 2018, Bruce Arians called AB a quote-unquote diva, so that tells you what you think of Arians. Of course, Bruce Arians was the former offensive coordinator for the Steelers at one point, and that was during when AB was in the earlier part of his career. So obviously Bruce Arians knows the drama surrounding Antonio Brown. February 5th, 2019, he gets into some legal trouble, found guilty of reckless driving. February 19th, 2019, Antonio Brown and the Steelers officially parting ways, and then he officially gets traded to the Oakland Raiders on March 10th, 2019, and the Steelers gave away Antonio Brown in exchange for a 3rd and a 5th round selection. But then came the weird series of events that led to him leaving the Raiders, including a cryogenic chamber mishap in which his feet got frostbitten, and so he had to miss practice because of that. And then he also threatened to retire because of some new helmet rules the NFL established, in which he wasn't allowed to wear his old helmet from seasons past, and he threatened to retire because of that, but obviously he didn't. And then he also got into it with the Raiders GM Mike Mayock, and then he was fined for that. I think he also cussed him out or something like that, and they just had a weird disagreement. And then 2 days after that, on September 7, 2019, Antonio Brown was officially released by the Raiders. But then shortly after that day, he got signed by the Patriots, inking a 1-year, $15 million deal. And this is where the start of the relationship with Tom Brady begins. I think he let Antonio Brown stay at his house for a little bit when he first arrived with the Patriots. And then just a few days later, after signing with the Patriots, Antonio Brown was sued by his former trainer of sexual assault, which really kind of put his Patriots' future into question. Nevertheless, he played his first game for the Patriots, a Week 2 matchup on September 15th, 2019 against the Miami Dolphins, and that was the last NFL game he's played in. And in that game, he had 4 catches for 56 yards and 1 touchdown. Looked pretty good in that game. Didn't look like he lost a step at all. However, 5 days after that game, Antonio Brown was released by the Patriots due to those legal issues with the sexual assault allegations. And Antonio Brown actually had a visit with the Saints on December 27, 2019, but the Saints didn't sign him to a deal, and Antonio Brown just kind of turned the visit into a weird kind of PR move on social media and made a rap out of it. And then some more legal trouble came in January 2020, and then on March 26, 2020, Arians once again was questioned about Antonio Brown. And, not long after, the Buccaneers signed Tom Brady. Obviously, at this point, Tom Brady has some sort of relationship with Antonio Brown at this point. And Bruce Arians is basically denying rumors that are coming in that are saying that Antonio Brown wants to link back up with Tom Brady signing with the Buccaneers, and just saying that it's not going to be a fit and that there's not enough room or money for him to join the team. And then in July 31st, 2020, there was an 8-game suspension handed out to Antonio Brown, mostly because of all the legal issues that he had. One of them was him being charged for a felony burglary and battery charges, which actually ended up in him getting arrested, but then he posted bail a day after, turned himself into police. And then now we're at the point in the story where the Buccaneers step in. And this is just 3 days ago as of when I'm recording this, October 21st. The Buccaneers actually cleared some cap space, which was pretty unknown news at the time, but the Buccaneers actually cleared $4.125 million in cap space, restructuring Ali Marpet's contract and converting that salary into roster bonus. And nobody really knew at the time that this was going to be the move that would make room for the signing of Antonio Brown. But the fact that this went kind of under the radar really helps it in the fact that the Buccaneers were able to get this deal done without any real kind of competition from other teams. And then 2 days later, of course, yesterday as of when I'm recording this, October 23rd, the Buccaneers completed the signing of Antonio Brown at around 7:30, and it was confirmed by ESPN's Adam Schefter. This was after there was a report that Antonio Brown and the Buccaneers were highly motivated to reaching a deal after he was scheduled to visit the team this weekend. So now that Antonio Brown has signed with the Buccaneers, what's his role going to be on the team? We'll have to see, but I'm thinking because we already have 2 really established top receivers in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, although they have been pretty injured so far this season, I think that's a great reason why we signed Antonio Brown anyways. But I think if Evans and Godwin are healthy and both on the field playing, Antonio Brown is definitely our number 3 receiver. The contract that we signed him, he's on a short leash. He's had behavioral and disciplinary issues in the past, and this is just something that could really blow up in our faces and just ruin the locker room and the team culture. But if it does, it's a low-risk move. We didn't sign him for that much money. We can just cut him the second he acts up. But if this does work out, this could be the one move that, like I said with Leonard Fournette, that helped to give us another edge in the run game. Although I don't think people would have expected Ronald Jones to be playing this well so far in the season. But maybe this is another move that just helps put our offense over the top, considering the defense really has been carrying the team so far this season. So the Buccaneers were probably thinking that if we can add the one more piece that we need to put our offense over the top, we'll be a complete team and definitely a Super Bowl contender. So will I think the Antonio Brown signing will work out for us? It really depends. I think he's probably one of the biggest wild cards you could possibly have on your team. He might end up playing really well like he did that one game for the Patriots, and then he might just get cut the next week like he did on the Patriots. But then again, he could become a really solid piece to our offense and be that one piece that puts us over the top and makes us Super Bowl contenders. We'll just have to see how it pans out, but I think it's really too early to call right now. All right, so that's about it for what I have for Antonio Brown. So now we're going to be moving into preview of the Raiders game for this portion of the video, and I'm just going to be starting out with the injury report as always. Starting with the Buccaneers side of things, nobody has been ruled out for this week's game. The only injury designation is being labeled to safety Andrew Adams, who has a hamstring injury and was a limited participant in practice on Friday. On the Raiders side of things, they have two players that are out, wide receiver Bryan Edwards and cornerback Keyshawn Nixon. And then Malik Collins is questionable with a shoulder injury, as well as Carl Nassib, a former Buccaneer. He has a toe injury. Now, here's an interesting situation we have with COVID-19, considering this is why this game has been rescheduled. Safety Jonathan Abram is going to miss this game because he has been placed on the reserve COVID-19 list, and the whole Raiders starting offensive line was originally placed on the COVID-19 list when right tackle Trent Brown was found to have tested positive. So that move was obviously out of precaution and contact tracing. Now I was thinking, wow, this is going to be a huge loss for the Raiders going into this week, considering their offensive line is one of the league's best. But they were actually just cleared not too long ago. I think I'm just recording this like a couple hours after this news is broke, that the whole starting offensive line has been removed from the COVID list. So it looks like the Raiders are going to have their full offensive line starting this week, which, would have been a really big mismatch considering our dominant front seven this year. But that's obviously going to be good news for them. But if I'm going to highlight a key player from the Raiders this week, I'm thinking it's going to be tight end Darren Waller. I have him in fantasy football right now, and he's been doing really well for my team. But also he's been doing really well for the Raiders. And he really has an interesting story. He was struggling with drug addiction and managed to get multiple suspensions from the league when he was on the Baltimore Ravens, got cut, and then ended up having his breakout year last year with the Raiders. He had over 1,000 yards receiving and ended up making the Pro Bowl. And this year he's also after a really excellent start to the season. So far he has 34 catches for 295 yards and 2 touchdowns. Really dangerous target for the Raiders, and he's definitely the number one option in the pass catching game for them. So yeah, he's really somebody to keep an important eye on. Now, I had the Buccaneers key player originally because I thought the whole Raiders starting offensive line was not going to be available in this one, but now that they're off the COVID list, it kind of changes my view a little bit, but I'm still going to be highlighting him as the key player for this week, and that's going to be Jason Pierre-Paul. Obviously, he's off to a really good start to the season. I think he's like top 5 in sacks right now in the NFL. And like I said, he is a really important piece to the team. And the re-signing of him this offseason was really important in my opinion because he is the great number 2 pass rusher that you need opposite your dominant number 1, in our case, Shaq Barrett. But looking at Pierre-Paul's stats so far this season, he's had 2 tackles for a loss, 7 QB hits, 5.5 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. Really great numbers from him so far. Kind of a Pro Bowl start to the season, and we'll see if he can keep it up. I was thinking he was going to have a dominant game, as well as the rest of our front seven. There was going to be a lot of sacks, and we weren't going to give up anything on the ground. But now that their great offensive line is mostly available for this one, I think it'll be a good test for him this week, but we'll see how it pans out for us. I still think he has a chance to really have a solid game going up against the Raiders left tackle Colton Miller. But I also want to look at how we did in last week's game against the Packers. I think we found our winning formula in that game, and I think we try and script our game plan very similar to that. If we run the ball as much as we did last week, I think we'll be really good. It'll set up a nice balanced offense for us, and then our defense can really take control of the game. Obviously, number 1 in total yards so far in the season, as well as number 1 in rushing yards allowed. The defense should be able to carry us to another win if our offense plays smart and efficiently, and then no silly penalties or turnovers. I think the Buccaneers will be able to have one of those games again this week, and this will be a nice win for the Buccaneers, and I'm thinking they're going to take this week's game by a score of 27-17. So that is it for this week's combined video of the Week 7 preview for the Raiders game and the Antonio Brown signing. Let me know what you think about both in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoy Week 7's games, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching, and go Bucs.